Hi. It was her father's birthday. The kind of evening where the wine flows freely, and laughter rises just a bit too loud over the clink of silverware. Her parents always hosted in the same style: long wooden table, mismatched chairs, and an air of forced cheerfulness layered beneath old family habits. I'd been to enough of these to know when to smile, when to nod, and when to disappear into my thoughts while everyone else rode the waves of nostalgia I didn't belong to. We were halfway through dinner when her cousin, the one who always managed to turn every conversation into a group therapy session, asked how we kept up with everything: the house, her boutique project, her yoga classes, and the 2 vacations she'd taken this quarter alone. "You two must have some serious teamwork going on," he said, spearing another bite of steak. "How do you split it all?" She didn't even pause. Just smirked, and, with that theatrical flair she used when she thought she was being clever, said, "Oh, he's just there to pay the bills. It's our running joke." The room erupted. Her mother laughed first, in that nervous, high-pitched way that always made my spine itch. Then the others followed. Glasses clinked. Someone slapped the table. I smiled. I even added a quiet laugh, a nod. But inside, it was like a door slammed shut behind my ribs. Funny how something can sound like a joke and a confession at the same time. She didn't look at me after she said it. That was the part that lingered. She looked around at everyone else, collecting their laughter like applause. My face wasn't even part of the punchline. I was just a prop, background furniture that also paid for the roof. I finished my wine too quickly. When her father asked if I wanted another glass, I held up my hand, palm out. "I'm good." She leaned close while everyone shifted topics and said, just loud enough for me to hear, "Oh, come on, lighten up. It was just a joke." I kept my voice level. "Sure." But I marked the moment. Like a pin in a map. You don't always know what you're navigating toward, but you know when something shifts under your feet. On the drive home, she talked about how much weight her mom had lost. Then she launched into a story about how she might try running again, maybe even sign up for that 10K in the fall. She laughed at a billboard joke we passed. She reached over at one point and touched my hand. Like nothing happened. But it had. It wasn't the first time either. I'd laughed off a lot in the past few months. The sharp tone when I asked about our budget. The cold shoulder after long workdays. The way every conversation had started to sound like a negotiation. Affection felt rehearsed. Her kisses landed like routine, not ritual. Still, I kept the engine running, both on the car and the marriage. You tell yourself it's stress, or hormones, or some phase they'll come out of, until the phase starts making jokes at your expense. That night, as she undressed for bed, I caught myself watching her like a stranger might, calculating, wondering what it was she saw when she looked at me now. Did she see a partner, a man she built a life with, or just someone who made the bank transfers on time? She flicked the bathroom light off and climbed into bed without a word. Her back faced me. The silence wrapped around my throat. I stared at the ceiling for a long time. The next morning, I remembered the joke again, this time, without the smile. And I started paying attention. The morning after the dinner, she hummed while brushing her hair. Same as always, not a note of awkwardness, not a flicker of regret. She asked if I could pick up almond milk on my way home, said she might meet up with the girls that evening, then kissed me on the cheek like I was a friendly coworker she barely knew. I smiled, nodded, and walked out the door. But inside, something had shifted. Not rage. Not even sadness. Just a cold, focused clarity I hadn't felt in a long time. Like a light had flipped on in a dark room, and everything I hadn't wanted to see was now sharp and unavoidable. It wasn't just a joke. It was the fact that she felt safe enough to say it out loud, in front of her family, without a second thought. That kind of boldness doesn't come from spontaneity. It comes from certainty, from repetition, from a belief that she'd get away with it, because she always had. On the drive to work, I kept running back through moments I'd dismissed. The way she used to laugh at my bad jokes and had stopped months ago. The texts she answered in the bathroom, screen tilted away. The nights out that used to end with her sending me pictures with friends, now replaced by delayed replies and, "Forgot to take any, sorry." Every transaction between us had started feeling exactly that, transactional. "Can you pick up laundry? I need you to Venmo me for the girls' brunch thing. I'll be out late again, don't wait up." It all sounded normal at the time. Busy life, schedules, marriage in year 8. But now, it read differently. Like I was a utility, a background app that only mattered when it stopped working. And then came the text. We were at home that evening. She was on the couch, scrolling with that glassy, slack-jawed look that people get when they're not really looking for anything, just swiping through noise. Her phone buzzed. A preview flashed. Just enough for a glance. You're so right. He just funds your freedom. She tilted the phone quickly and typed back. Too quickly. With practiced confidence. I don't think she realized I saw it. Or maybe she didn't care. That changed everything. That wasn't just a joke. That was doctrine. And whoever that was, knew it. It wasn't a private thought. It was a shared mantra. I played it cool. Didn't flinch, didn't change my breathing. Just sipped my tea, scrolled my own screen. But inside, gears locked into motion. I had no idea who was. But I would. Later that night, when she was asleep, or at least pretending, I sat at my desk and started going through our financial history. Nothing invasive yet. Just the basic stuff. Credit card activity, shared account logs, Venmo. At first, it looked like usual spending. But then I saw it. 300 here. 500 there. Boutique stores she never mentioned. A spa weekend during a time she'd said she was with her friend Hannah. Dinner charges from places we'd never been to. And I mean that literally. I googled them. One of them had a date night prefix menu with couples' photos all over their social media page. The reservation was for 2. All booked during her girls' trips. And that's when the knot in my stomach cinched. The next morning, she left her phone on the table for a few minutes while she showered. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I watched it. Locked screen. But notifications still popped up. Group chat. Free Women Club. I didn't even have to read the messages yet. The name alone told me everything. But later that week, I did read them. She backed up her phone to the cloud. I had access to the backup from an old sync we never shut off. She probably forgot. I hadn't. Inside that chat, it was all there. Laughter at their husbands. Complaints about how they felt trapped. And one message from her, word for word. I don't even see him as a partner. More like a wallet I don't have to return. No emojis. Just raw text. I stared at that line for a long time. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Not ever in the heat. That's how you lose the high ground. That's how you give them a chance to flip it. Instead, I saved the backup. I printed the receipts. And I made a promise to myself, right then and there. If she saw me as a wallet, I'd show her what it looked like when the wallet closed. From the outside, everything stayed the same. I still made coffee in the morning, still asked how her night out went, still smiled when she joked about ordering takeout because she was too exhausted from being fabulous. But underneath, I was operating on a new level. I wasn't her husband anymore, not in the way she thought. I was her observer. And every day, every moment, every word she tossed out carelessly became another data point in a pattern I no longer pretended not to see. I started with the financials, quietly, systematically. Our joint credit card had always been her playground. But now I combed through each line item, date-stamped and categorized. I built a spreadsheet, color-coded it, tracked patterns. One weekend every month, always tied to a girls' trip, showed double or triple her usual spending. Boutique hotels, upscale restaurants, Ubers to neighborhoods we never visited together. One night, she claimed she was in Santa Barbara with college friends, but the hotel she booked was in West Hollywood. I didn't ask questions, I just took notes. Then I looked at Venmo. Buried among the standard friend-to-friend payments were transactions labeled for your half, from usernames I didn't recognize. One of them was the same name as the contact. That's when I knew who he was. Samir. A co-worker she'd mentioned exactly twice, both times in passing. Supposedly married. Supposedly distant. Supposedly harmless. He wasn't. I looked him up. Company website had his face. Mid-30s. Too smooth smile. Instagram full of gym selfies and vague captions like, grind mode, and she already knows. A man who thought seduction was strategy. A man who'd done this before. But I wasn't interested in him. Not yet. I went back to her phone backups. Week by week, message by message, I pieced together the real story. The group chat, Free Women Club, was worse than I'd thought. It was a fantasy echo chamber. All of them married. All of them bored. All of them convincing each other that ditching their husbands emotionally, or physically, wasn't betrayal. It was self-care. I read her words like I was studying a stranger. Sometimes I feel like he's just there. Like physically. Not emotionally. I'm already on my own. He doesn't ask what I need. He just assumes paying for stuff equals love. And the one that stuck with me the longest. I've been planning my exit for months. Just need the right timing. That line hit me harder than any hotel receipt. She wasn't impulsive. She wasn't drifting. She was preparing. Like I was some project she was winding down. Some generous mistake she needed to exit gently, without damaging her brand. But her timing was off. Because while she was planning her exit, I was planning her audit. I installed a home camera system under the guise of a security upgrade. I didn't put them in private spaces. I wasn't desperate or reckless. But I did place one discreet camera facing the front hallway and another facing the driveway. Then I waited. She came home late 3 times that week. Each time, she said she was with the same 2 friends, but the footage didn't lie. She came home alone once, then with Samir once, 30 minutes before I returned from work. He didn't come inside. He just dropped her off. But her body language, the way she lingered by the car, touched his chest when she laughed. It wasn't professional. It wasn't casual. It was practiced. She never mentioned him again. I started logging everything. The timeline. The receipts. The chat backups. I stored it all in an encrypted folder labeled Property Records. Boring enough to avoid clicks, secured enough to protect the truth. And through it all, I played the part. I brought home dinner. I folded laundry. I listened to her talk about yoga class and how her instructor said she had amazing posture for someone who sits all day. And the whole time, I kept my voice even, my expressions measured, my tone light. Because while she thought she was moving pieces on the board, she didn't realize I was already playing the endgame. The worst part? There were still moments when I wanted to believe I was wrong. That some version of the woman I married was still in there, buried under the ego, the group chats, the false empowerment. I'd catch a glimpse, the way she curled up with a blanket, or hummed to a song we used to love, and I'd feel it. That old gravity. But then I'd open the spreadsheet again, or scroll back through the chat where she called me. A walking budget with a heartbeat. And the gravity would collapse into itself. I wasn't staying to fix anything. I was staying to finish. The Sunday before everything cracked open, she spent the morning pacing the house on speakerphone. I heard her talking to someone named Monique, laughing about a reset weekend. And how no one's asking questions when you pretend it's self-care. I stayed out of the frame, out of her notice, but I caught every word. Her tone was light, free, like she'd finally figured out how to disappear in plain sight. That same afternoon, while she was out running errands, I opened her laptop. She rarely used it anymore. Everything lived on her phone, but I remembered she'd once saved her password to a travel rewards portal. I checked the browser history and found exactly what I expected: hotel confirmations, but not just one. 4. Same hotel chain. 2 different cities. Each one matched a girls' trip weekend on our calendar. And all of them, all 4, were booked for 2 guests. The receipts matched her email confirmations, but one booking showed the guest's name she must have forgotten to scrub: Samir D. He wasn't just a side detail. He was a pattern. I looked at the booking notes. Room service included. Romance package. She'd paid for it with our joint travel points. The ones I earned through business flights and client dinners, year after year. That was when it all turned. Up until then, it had been betrayal in the shadows. A cold war. Her lies, my quiet surveillance. But this was theft in plain daylight. She used my time, my miles, my effort, to fund her second life. I stood there for a long time, the screen glowing with proof, until something inside me stopped burning and started freezing. I thought about how long I'd been working late, trying to hit bonuses for our shared future. How many hours I gave to meetings I hated, to people I didn't respect, because I thought I was building something worth protecting. She used those hours to build hotel weekends with someone who smiled in gym selfies. It wasn't even about Samir. It could have been anyone. That was the point. The betrayal wasn't emotional, it was architectural. She'd redesigned our life around a lie and just left me in the blueprint like a structural beam she didn't have the tools to remove. So I stopped looking at the laptop. I looked at myself instead. The mirror above her vanity reflected me in half focus. Not the version she saw, but the one I'd forgotten was still there. I wasn't angry. I was finished. The next day, while she slept in, post-errands, exhaustion, no doubt, I met with a financial advisor. Private meeting. No paper trail linking to our shared accounts. I asked the right questions. What can I protect quietly? What transfers won't trigger alerts? What steps will hold up if things go to court? He didn't blink. He'd seen this before. He told me about asset isolation, liquid transfer protections, and rolling ownership transitions. I made the first changes that same afternoon. Discreetly. Methodically. I also set up a second meeting, this time with a family law attorney. Again, quiet. No retainer yet. Just questions. Just frameworks. What I learned chilled me more than anything in the chat logs. California law wouldn't care about her lies, not directly. Infidelity doesn't shift the balance sheet. But if I could prove misuse of joint assets for personal indulgences, that changed the game. The dinners, the hotels, the Venmo payments labeled my half, the flight upgrades, all booked on our joint card, documented, dated, time-stamped. I wasn't just her wallet, I was her sponsor, and she hadn't been careful. That night, we had dinner like nothing was wrong. She joked about needing a new massage subscription. Said she was thinking about doing a wellness weekend again soon. Asked if I could help book the flights. She'd had a brain fog week. I sipped my drink and nodded. Of course. Just let me know what you need. She smiled, satisfied. Kissed me on the cheek. Then got up to call someone on the patio. I watched her go. The woman I married was long gone. And the woman who replaced her had no idea what was coming next. By the following week, I had mapped out everything I needed to sever her access without alerting her too early. She'd spent so long assuming I was passive, disconnected, slow-moving. That belief was her biggest blind spot. I kept the routine normal. We still made breakfast in silence. I still asked how her day went when she came home. She still answered with practiced warmth, just enough to avoid suspicion. Meanwhile, I was rewriting the ground beneath her feet. The first move was financial. I opened a separate account in a different bank under my name only, and began transferring small amounts of our joint savings, always in uneven increments, always spaced out to avoid notice. I rerouted my direct deposit, changed the login credentials on our brokerage account, updated the contact email on our retirement accounts to an address she didn't know existed. Then I contacted the title office. The house was purchased jointly, but I'd put up 80% of the down payment, and I'd documented it. My attorney helped me prepare paperwork that could freeze the equity access if a sudden refinance was attempted. In short, I made it so that if she decided to run, she'd be running broke. Next came the credit cards. I let hers decline on a harmless transaction, something minor, a grocery store run. When she got home, she waved the receipt like a flag. My card didn't work. Did we miss a payment? I didn't look up from the sink. Must be a joke, like the one you told at dinner. She gave me a confused half-smile. What? That thing you said? About me just being here to pay the bills. Figured I'd lean into the role. Or out of it. She tilted her head, trying to gauge my tone. Okay, now you're being weird. I dried my hands and turned to her. Or maybe I'm just done being useful in the way you liked. She opened her mouth but didn't say anything, then shook her head and left the room. I didn't follow. That weekend she told me she'd be staying with Hannah. Another self-care getaway. I nodded, told her to enjoy it. She packed light, casually, like someone confident there were no surprises left to find. While she was gone, I cleaned house, metaphorically and legally. I changed every shared password. I removed her access from our joint cloud storage. I compiled every receipt, every chat backup, every piece of proof into a single, organized folder. Then I backed it up 3 ways: local drive, private server, and printed binder. I labeled the binder accountability. On Sunday night, when she walked through the door, she looked radiant, renewed. Her cheeks were flushed from sun or wine or whatever hotel mirror compliments Samir had fed her. She kissed me lightly. Missed you. I smiled, calm. Let's talk tomorrow. There's something I need you to read. She blinked, caught off guard. What? Why? Because I'm done pretending. She paused. That split-second hesitation, where calculation overrode instinct, was all the confirmation I needed. She wasn't confused. She was caught. But she still didn't know how deep the trap ran. That night, she slept uneasily beside me. Tossed, checked her phone twice. I lay still, eyes open, watching the ceiling. The next day, I set the folder on the kitchen table. I didn't speak, just waited for her to sit down and open it. She did, slowly, flipping through the timeline, the bank records, the chat screenshots, the group chat name in bold. Free Women Club. She didn't say a word for the first 3 pages. Then her voice cracked. You went through my phone? I sat down across from her, still calm. No. I read the cloud. You backed it up to the same account you asked me to set up for you 2 years ago. You remember that? She stared at me. The color in her face strained. I nodded toward the pages. You said I was just here to pay bills. So I stopped. You said you didn't need me. Now you'll prove it. Her hands trembled slightly. You don't understand. I cut her off quietly. I understand exactly. You built a second life with my work, with my money, with my time. And now you can keep it, but not with me. She looked like she might cry. But it didn't land. Not anymore. The part of me that would have ached for her tears was gone. She whispered, I made mistakes. I felt invisible. I looked her in the eye. You weren't invisible. You were just dishonest. She didn't fight, didn't rage. She folded inward, the way people do when they realize the performance is over and the house lights are up. I stood. We'll talk about logistics tomorrow. I've already consulted counsel. She reached for me, and I stepped back without anger. Just finality. She didn't speak again. Not that night. Not to me. She didn't go to work the next day. Instead, she sat at the kitchen table like a statue, staring at the folder I'd left open. She'd moved only one page, the one that showed the hotel receipts, the dual guest bookings, the confirmation emails. She didn't touch the chat transcripts. I could tell she didn't want to face her own words in her own voice. I poured coffee like it was any other morning, sat across from her. Her voice was small. I don't know what you want from me. I stirred cream into my mug slowly. Nothing. That's the point. She winced. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. That joke, it wasn't supposed to land like that. I leaned back. You said it in front of your family? Smiled while you did. No one says something like that unless they've said it to themselves 100 times first. Her eyes flicked up, just for a moment. It wasn't always like this. I nodded once. I know. That's what makes it worse. She tried a new angle. I was lonely. You were always working. You didn't ask if I was okay. That's what you wrote in the group chat, I said quietly. Right before you booked a hotel with someone else. Using points I earned on flights you never asked me about. Her face twisted, like she wanted to argue, but couldn't find the line that would hold. I don't even see him as a partner, I said, quoting her. More like, a wallet I don't have to return. She winced again, this time deeper. Her hands folded around her coffee mug like it might anchor her. I didn't mean that. I was venting. They push each other, that chat, it's toxic. But you kept participating, I said. Month after month, hotel after hotel. You weren't trapped. You were enabled. You had freedom, and you used it to lie. Silence. The real kind. Not tense, not performative. Just a blank, empty stillness where everything that had ever been us no longer existed. I finally stood. The lawyer will reach out by the end of the week. You'll get an inventory. I've already protected the core assets. I'm not interested in war. Just truth. She stood too. A little slower. We can't talk about this. Just the two of us. We are talking. This is the only version of it that matters. Quiet. Direct. Final. She stared at me, eyes watering but dry. I thought we were partners once. We were, I said. Until one of us changed the rules and forgot to inform the other. That landed. Not because it was cruel, but because it was true. She looked around the kitchen like the furniture might speak for her. Then she tried again. I didn't mean to ruin everything. You didn't ruin everything, I said evenly. You revealed what everything had already become. She covered her face. Not to cry, I don't think, just to disappear. I left the room. Over the next 48 hours, she tried different tactics. The soft apology, the guilt plea, the nostalgic pull, reminding me of our first apartment, how we built this life, what we survived together. But it all came too late. Her memory was a selective lens. Mine was forensic. By Friday, she'd moved into the guest room. The silence between us wasn't tense anymore. It was resolved. I filed for divorce the following Monday. I didn't tell her directly. She'd already been informed through counsel. She didn't come out of her room that morning. I didn't check in. The day after that, I sent a quiet message to Samir's wife, a simple, factual summary. No embellishments. Just the receipts, the timeline, the travel confirmations, she responded once. Thank you? I never heard from her again. That night, I opened a bottle of wine I'd been saving. Not for celebration, for closure. I sat on the patio in silence, and watched the light in the guest room go dark. No shouting, no chaos, just two lives detaching at the seams. The next day, mutual friends started to find out. Not from me, from her. But her story had holes, too many of them. People asked quiet questions. Some reached out to me, more cautious than concerned. And when I told them the truth, backed by quiet evidence, the verdict wasn't sympathy. It was recoil. She lost more than me. She lost the illusion. The divorce filing landed like a depth charge. Not because she didn't expect it, she did. But because it was thorough, documented, unshakable. Within 2 weeks, the legal tone changed on her end. She went from confident to cautious. Her initial response, filed through a polished attorney I didn't recognize, requested the house and a significant share of our remaining savings. My attorney sent a counterclaim that attached every documented misuse of joint funds for personal travel, hotel stays, and non-marital expenses. California law wouldn't let me punish her for infidelity, but it would account for financial betrayal. She went silent after that. 3 days later, Samir's wife filed for divorce too. I didn't know the details, but I did hear, indirectly, that she submitted copies of the same travel documents. Word spread. Fast. Faster than I expected. One of her friends, someone from that Free Women Club thread, posted a vague quote about karma, then deleted it. Another mutual acquaintance unfollowed both of us, quietly choosing a side without saying so. Others messaged me in private. Some wanted details. Others offered silence, solidarity. But the tone was consistent. She'd crossed a line that wasn't romantic, it was foundational. She didn't just cheat. She conspired. She built an alternate life on borrowed time and borrowed money, and assumed no one would hold her accountable. The house went to me. She didn't contest it. Her attorney negotiated for a partial financial settlement, modest, controlled, court-approved. She had no ground to fight from. Her bluff had been called, her leverage burned. I transferred her share, cleanly, without bitterness, just like closing an account. And still, there was no confrontation, no explosion, no scene. Because once someone's seen behind the curtain, there's no theater left to play. In the weeks that followed, I noticed something strange. I started breathing deeper, walking slower, sleeping better. Not instantly, not cleanly, but gradually, like stepping out of a heavy suit of armor I didn't realize I'd worn for years. Thank you for watching. Bye.